Yeah.
We're going to skip over the first agenda item, right?
Yeah. Do you have any commentary about it to just kind of advise the public
All right, so
about the situation?
you were at the meeting, right?
Yeah.
So I'll let you handle that.
Sure.
Okay, we are live.
Ready? Everyone, welcome to the Board of Health meeting for Wednesday, July 27th, 2022. I'm Alan Greenberg, the Vice Chairman of the Board of Health. Tom Fichtner is going to talk on the first agenda item.
That's me. Yeah. All right. First up on the agenda, I believe there was the welcoming of our newest member, Joyce Gilmore. But for those that may not know, Joyce Gilmore has been appointed by the Select Board to take a seat that was vacated by a previous individual, Andy Fisk, who was the chairman. So Joyce, I was actually expecting Joyce might be around this week. So we set the meeting up in person thinking she might be here, but as it turned out, she was on vacation this week. I was thinking she'd be away next week, but which is fine. So, but at any rate, from my standpoint, I think Joyce was a great selection. She comes with a lot of experience. Some of you may know she's been on the Board of Health many years in the past. She's been involved in a lot of different things in the community. So I'm very excited to have Joyce on board to kind of round us out and keep us all honest. So I'm looking forward to working with Joyce when she comes on board. Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is the Lake Nipmuc Association. Jack, are you going to have a general discussion, or
We can have a general discussion what we have accomplished so far.
All right,
and what we
then
plan
Mr.
on doing.
Phipps, if you'd like to speak. All right, so Jack, take it away.
Okay. Hi, Wayne, welcome. Have a seat.
Hey, sure, thank you.
Right in front of you, here's some handouts that I've created for the Lake Nipmuc Association. What I have done, thanks to the help of Selectman Lonnie Tinio, Parks and Recreation Director Daniel Byer, and also the records that Missy was a BOH administrator, kept records of back in 2015 of the septic pumping records of all the residents around the Lake Nipmuc. On the last page, you'll see a map of Lake Nipmuc. And what I have done, I have plot planted the residents' address numbers next to roughly where that location around the lake it has taken place.
Is this the updated page?
I'll open up the last page.
Oh, okay.
So I've gone around the lake and updated all the residents' numbers of the residents that they reside in and went around the lake. And roughly what Missy has done back in 2015, she was taking those numbers and referencing the pumping records from the septic haulers to make sure that they were up to date as most as possible. So what I have done is I went back through all those records. There's roughly 113 properties around the lake. I went through all 113 folders, checking out the pumping records, what the most recent records are. And on an Excel table here, we'll show you the property, when the septic system or tight tank was installed, tank size, TT stands for tight tank, SS stands for septic system, then you have cesspool, and then we have unknown. Then what I did was I went down every single address and pulled what last pumping record we had on file. As you recall back on, let me see here, when we had our Board of Health meeting back on May 25th, our chairman at the time, Chairman Fisk, was talking about septic pumpers are not giving us the records. Right. So it's very hard to police when septic systems are being pumped and being notified of such that occurrence happening. So again, going back, I did what I could find, what I've had available to me. The pie chart on the main section will tell you roughly 27 properties, which will guarantee 24%, has no record on file at all of any pumping records that we have at the Board of Health.
Those are the ones that are in the red on the flip side?
Yes. From 1990 to 1995, I've had 2 residents with pumping records. And as it goes on, it's 5-year intervals all the way up to current. So from 2021 to current, we have 23 residents, which basically is 20% of the 113 properties around the lake that are up to date on their pumping records. And that's what I have accomplished so far. My next topic of Lake Nipmunk getting more updated records is then going through Title V's if I have any Title V's available, if Title V's were done. Then going through any Title V's and comparing to see if it's still a septic tank, a tight tank, cesspool, just confirming everything from back in 2015 hasn't been changed, or if it has been changed, again, I'm going to update this information. And once that's done, I'll bring it to everybody's attention.
Great. This is a lot of work, I'm sure.
It was a lot of work,
Yeah,
but again,
nice job.
it's necessary, it needs to be done, and we're slowly getting there. It is a concern to us as well,
Right,
and we want to make sure that you guys at Lake Nipmuc Association know we are working diligently. All of us are trying to get you the information to get this squared away, hopefully once and for all.
right. Well, we certainly appreciate all the work and the effort that's gone into this. This certainly shows a lot of work.
I know Daniel Bear has been talked with Nick Erskine, I believe, at the police department to get Lake Nipmuc Association as our code red alert.
Okay.
So anytime that the lake is closed, he makes an announcement and everybody that does it, but they have to register on their own. It's not no automatic.
Right.
So everybody has to register saying, I want to be notified of any lake closings of Lake Nipmuc. They could be notified by email, text message, landline, email.
People have the option of which to choose?
Correct.
Okay,
Correct. So we are currently still working on that.
okay, all right.
Um,
Well, it's nice to see that we're all on board to work together for the common good here. 'Cause we were closed again today.
yes, Daniel told me that today.
Yeah.
Yeah, the reading was about, what, 3 something?
Yeah, 335, I believe it was.
It's
And
3:35.
for the
yeah.
audience, we're talking about the E. coli levels
Mm.
at the beach.
Yeah.
Which is, from a limit perspective, 235 is the
Right.
value that's or below is considered an acceptable value from the state level. Anything above that.
And what were we today?
335?
335,
I think you said it was 3:35.
Yeah.
not much higher, but granted it was higher, so,
Yeah, over the limit,
yeah.
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah,
But I mean, this is something that, Missy had been working on for a
Right.
number of years. So Jack, thank you very much for
Yeah.
pulling it all
this
together.
is really very impressive, so thank you for all the work that
Oh,
went
no
into
problem.
it.
The other part, that's kind of difficult for us is, we kind of hope that the vendors who pump these systems provide the pumping records
Right.
as they're supposed to us, so we
Yeah.
have them on file for the properties,
Yeah,
and that just doesn't happen as regularly as we'd like it
Mm-hmm.
to see. Whether or not there's, we talked about potentially trying to do something to try to help gather that data.
Mhm.
Maybe it's a case of trying to reach out to some of these vendors, or actually contact the homeowners directly, find out who they utilize for servicing. And the homeowners themselves might even have copies of records from past
Mhm.
pumpings that, if they're willing to provide, the copy for us to put on file, so we have it in the general BOH files would be great, but we know that some of these places that do the pumpings, they do keep records. In fact, I think we were conversing with one that, was it Grant?
Yeah, Grant Septic.
Grant Septic, Jack had a conversation with, and they have them. It's a question of going back and trying to dig at them. So maybe there's something.
I mean, living on Kinsley Lane, I mean, I see a lot of trucks that come in there to do the pumping, because they do have, we have a lot of tight tanks that are up there, and so, so they are supposed to come and record that with the Board of Health
They're
office,
supposed to
correct?
Yes.
But if you look at the names here, there's only like half a dozen companies.
Exactly.
Right,
So it really shouldn't be a
That's true,
tough
right.
thing to correct,
right,
because it's the same company
right,
servicing, more than one of these homes around the lake. So it really shouldn't be a hard thing. And I know in the past, to Tom's point, I was working on approval for a dog groomer. And the same thing, we needed to have some pumping records. And the company had the pumping records. It was just a matter of saying, hey, pass them on to
Yeah.
us. And they had them all in their computer and it was instant. So that we could approve this in-home dog grooming business. So it's kind of they don't make it to us. It's
Yes,
not that
exactly.
the records don't exist. They just aren't getting to the Board of Health office in the town of Mendon. So,
I mean, I see my house on here and it's under no record, and I've had one of these pumpers to come and do this. I mean, should I call them and?
do you use the same pumper all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's an eye-opening
It
experience.
really
for all
is,
of us.
yeah. Yeah,
And the other aspect too is to play devil's advocate. There could be septic pumpers that are not even permitted in the town of Mendon. Because I live in Bellingham and I didn't know that you had to be permitted in each town because I had my septic tank pumped and I didn't know if the guy I used was allowed in the town of Bellingham.
yeah,
So again, it's just a matter of notification and like Alan said, reaching out. I can reach out to everybody on this list and say, just a reminder, Title V code, you need to send these records in.
right, right.
Well, I mean, you can even go as far as telling them, hey, listen, we're, paying extra attention to the lake. We're working with the Lake Nipmuc Association.
Right.
Help us out,
Yeah,
and I mean, it's just a matter of them passing that information on. They're doing the work. They're getting paid to do the work. They're disposing of the waste the way they're supposed to. We just need them to go one more step.
yeah,
So and I'm sure, where it's only a handful of guys and they're local, it shouldn't be a major thing to, get that one more step on.
yeah.
And like you say, there are only a few companies that are doing the pumping.
Maybe where there's just a handful here, maybe we can take the initiative and on a day line up some calls to these handfuls and explain what we're doing and see if they could provide, copies of the past pumping records
Yeah.
for those properties,
Right.
Yeah, and a reminder that every time they pump, please pass that information
Right.
on to us.
Yeah,
And, maybe in especially tight tanks where they get pumped frequently, it shouldn't take long for everybody to get up to speed.
Yeah.
correct, right.
Septic systems, it'll take a little longer. But I mean, within a reasonable amount of time, we should be able to have all these blocks filled in. And we should be able to have them filled in with really current dates.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah, I agree.
yeah,
Now, we know that the pumping is only a part of this picture that we're trying to solve, right? Having the pumping records is one piece. What we're also trying to do is get validation for what may or may not be the source of troubles with the water up there at the lake.
it may be one piece of it, which is another, I reached out to Joan today. She's up in New Hampshire. And we talked about when we were online the last time about one of the labs do you know the lab that we're using in town to do the testing in the lake?
Microvac, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're out of Connecticut now. They used to have a Worcester office, but now they're out of Dayville.
Dayville, correct.
Connecticut.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Joan used, at the beginning of the season, she used Alpha Lab, which was in Westbrook. They've moved down. There's someplace in Connecticut. And she sent me a note just to bring it up to you that the one place that's consistently high with E. coli is in the section in front of the yacht club.
Yeah, Cove.
That just consistently comes back high.
So even if the beach is fine and the beach is open
Yeah.
and you guys test that cove,
Right.
it's coming back high.
Right, right.
Okay.
And I know she's spoken to Alan about that drain over there that's coming off of 16. And I know Mr. Tatro and Mr. Tenio are looking at that, about doing some work in front of that, and that may be one of the contributing factors. So I know that there's been work on that. But she's talked about having some testing done with our company, which is Alpha Lab again, on the houses on both sides of that. And I'm not sure what type of system the yacht club has, but
Yeah, which one are they on our list? They the
Is
top
that-
one?
They're on a tight tank.
they're on a tight tank.
Is that Old Kinsley Lane? I mean,
Old
Old
Taft
Taft
Avenue.
Avenue, yeah.
Yeah, so that shouldn't really be an issue then.
No.
if the tank is tight.
If it's,
Yes,
right,
yes, exactly.
right, yeah. And I believe, I mean, just coming from me, I don't think it's all that old, so it probably shouldn't be an issue, but she seemed to, maybe it's that there's some type of a wetlands up in the back there that I know Bob Lamoth thought was draining down into the lake up in there, but
Well,
But I know
if
we've
that's the
talked about
case,
that.
you know, there's no reason you can't consult with conservation
right,
also.
right, and I think we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, you know,
Yeah.
it's gonna be a collaborative effort because like you
Which was
just,
talked about.
like you just brought up, there very well could be more than one factor.
Right,
And when you add the total up,
Yeah.
that's when we're having a problem.
right.
What's interesting is that we had a beach closing this week based on a test that was done Monday. We haven't had any rain type
Rain
weather
at all.
to have caused it.
Right,
Right?
No disturbance, yet it tested high, a little higher. Not
Mhm.
dramatically high, but it was higher.
The only thing that I can think of is you could have the same concentration, but now there's less water in the lake.
and it is dropping, it's
Oh.
really dropped this week.
So I'm not a chemist,
Good
but
point.
It is a good point.
Yeah.
that could very well, without a new introduction,
Mhm.
could raise the level.
And
Because
I,
I've noticed my pool is,
Mhm.
the water's evaporating quicker than I like it to be.
And maybe the heat is a factor. I don't know.
Well, yeah, the heat itself, the water temperature, that could be boiling something up that's in the lake already, that it hasn't been newly introduced. It was just sitting there waiting for the right conditions.
Mhm.
And again, that would be a great thing to ask somebody when we put that panel together.
Right, right.
Because, I mean, we're all kind of playing detective and trying to figure out why we have these situations. Because when we do have a bad test, we lose a lot of time being able to use the lake.
Someone contacted me this week, just as a side note, from someone in New York, and they showed me I don't even know what you would call it, I guess a contraption, something that they were inundated with geese. And they showed me a contraption that everybody on their lake used. It's a piece of aluminum, and they put two eyes on it with a white feather, and several people put it on the banks of their lake. No geese. So I'm going to show it to people in the Lake Association, and hopefully we can get some people to try it. I don't know if it'll work, but we'll try and see if it works.
I know there was a spray of some type in it. I learned about this a while back.
Was it with garlic?
I don't remember, but for some reason, if I remember correctly, if you sprayed it on the lawn adjacent the water,
Yep.
I thought the geese's eyes, it affected their eyes. They would see something that was there that really wasn't there.
Oh. We had someone try a spray on their lawn, but it had a garlic in it. I don't know how that's worked, but I'm going to try this contraption with it's a piece of aluminum, and it flows in the air,
Yeah.
and it had those little, you get them at the craft shops with eyes and a white feather. Supposedly, no geese after people use this. So if that's a factor, I hope that works too.
Yeah.
So, but
All right.
hopefully that will work.
Any update on putting a panel together for a meeting?
I'm still in talks with Michael Beck, trying to get somebody from there to come in. We still have two names. I don't know if I have those names available.
We're trying to come up with different sources that could be a broad representation from a panel perspective
Right.
to cover all the bases. One, of course, is Michael Back. I think the other was, I think we're going to try to reach through the state and try to reach for a contact at that level, whether it be DPH or Mass DEP, that has, knowledge that could, potentially be
Yeah,
part of.
even DCR,
Was it?
the Department of, what do they call it? They run the West River Dam and everything.
Oh.
A state agency?
Yeah,
MDR? Is it
no,
MDR?
it's is it DCR?
Conservation and Recreation?
Yeah, that's
What are you
it.
thinking? Okay.
But I mean, they have everybody from a groundskeeper up to like a forest ranger.
Okay.
So in fact, John Dudley used to work up near the Quabbin.
did,
West
yeah.
Boylston,
Okay.
yeah,
So, when we're talking about the effect of wildlife, whether it be geese or beavers,
and-
someone from that department might have experience.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Can we get conservation involved in this when we finally get it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think if we all get together in one big forum, I think we'll,
Yeah, as far as the panel is concerned, there's probably, and I don't know what it is, but there's probably a key number of people so that everyone has a chance to contribute.
right,
If we go too broad, we might not be able to give everybody the amount of
that's
time
true,
that they
that's
need.
true, yeah,
Plus the audience, we want to keep their attention.
right,
So we have to kind of pick and choose and decide and try to
True.
find that sweet
true,
spot
yep,
so that everybody gets the most out of it,
right,
because we don't know how long it'll be before we're able to do something like that
Right.
again.
true,
I mean, maybe once we put it all together, if it works well, we could do it on an annual basis,
Mhm.
hopefully long before the season.
right,
And then we could kind of mix it up.
mhm,
So maybe people that we didn't get to, we could bring them in, the following year,
mhm.
Yeah.
line them up and gain some more information.
Right.
Sometimes too much information.
It's true.
Right, you're a school
Too-
teacher.
You're right, too
So-
many pieces in the pie.
Right, so we need to find that sweet spot so that
Right.
we get the most benefit out of it, especially now, we're sort of starting behind the season by the
Mhm.
time we put this all together. So, once we evaluate what we learned from this first panel, maybe next year we want to do it in March.
Right, before the season
You
begins.
know, and then try to
Yeah.
do it on an annual basis and mix the panel up a little bit, get a broader, scope as
Yep.
time goes on, because the lake's not going anywhere.
Right,
So, all the information that we gather, we need to pass on to the next
Yeah.
people in line that are gonna be the guardians of that lake.
it's true, it's true.
So, I'm hopeful that this would maybe
Yeah.
turn into an annual thing.
We had Gabrielle Belfit, who's a senior environmental scientist, and also Matt Ladwig, who's a senior water resource scientist.
Excellent.
Excellent, very good.
So that'll give us some real
Yeah.
technical
Yep,
understanding
right.
of
Yeah.
what might be going on over there.
Have you folks been doing any testing this season?
We did one back at the beginning of the season. That was the one that I said, we did 10 testings. When we did the testings in the previous years and at the beginning of this year, we did 10 spots around the lake. And the only one that consistently comes back high is the one by the yacht club.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah,
And so everything else seemed to fall within
in line, yeah.
acceptable
Yeah,
number?
yeah,
That
Yeah.
one spot is extremely high.
yeah.
Well,
And if I remember correctly, Bobby Lamoth put some dye in?
he did.
Over by this, there's a little, I don't even know what you would call it. It looks like a little swampy area over by where the trestle was by
Yeah.
the, in there. And did he talk to you about that?
Did, yeah, actually, well, it was the day of the launching, when you folks
Oh, we had the boat parade?
doing the boat parade,
Yeah.
right? So I went down to watch, and Bobby was down there, and we got to talking, and we started to do a little tour. He kind of showed me the setup, what he's found in some of his research, and he kind of walked me out to the edge of 16 when you come in on Old Taft, and kind of gave me the layout for what he found from a storm drain perspective as to how he feels things are flowing. And as you come to the end of Old Taft, when you're looking onto 16, to the right-hand side, where that trestle kind of used to come across the railroad track, there's like I said, a swampy area, and that's where Bobby put the dye in. And I said, well, how long did it take for the dye to show? He goes, about 10 minutes. So he put it in that little area there, and it immediately, almost instantaneously, came out in the lake on the drain pipe that's just on the other side of the cove. So it was pretty quick. So obviously there's a connection, and he feels that there's something that is going on with regard to the connectivity with the storm drain that comes under 16 and flows in and makes its way into that part of the lake.
Yeah, see, I mean, that's something that probably needs to be, really, really looked at by some sort of an official.
The drain, I know that Mr. Tatro and I know Damon Tinio was working with him on that, the drain pipe that goes into the lake. I know there's a silt filter in there or something like that, and I know they're working on trying to correct that.
So that would come under the town of Mendon's
I'm not sure.
versus the state.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, there seems to be some issue potentially with ownership and separation of what's state controlled versus what we can control as a town. And this may be a case where we have to involve, like, I'm not sure the state agency, whether that's a State Department on the highway side. Is that a DEP? Could DEP lead the way to guide us?
Mhm.
You know, we presented as a, concern here with regard to possible outside exposure coming into the lake from this source that we feel might be stormwater related. Would that be a DEP issue, or who would they guide us to? To discuss that, to bring it, try to resolve it, because I think there's an outside element here that is not getting addressed.
Yeah.
I know there's another question too, a concern of potential contamination from a septic perspective.
From what?
From a septic perspective.
On
In
that
same
side?
area?
In that area?
In that area.
Okay.
Possibility of, at least it's been raised as to whether or not there may be a property that may not have a system that's functioning or that is working properly, where there may be seepage that is getting into the water.
From that area? Oh, okay, yeah.
But the only way to, I don't know how you address that. Is that a case where simply,
It's private property.
well, so you
What?
work with the owners of the
Yeah.
locations in
They were
question?
doing dye testing at the beach to make sure that those tanks weren't leaking at one point,
We did, yeah.
so, I mean, if the homeowner can be approached and, you can work with them and say, this is, how we can maybe test to find out if things aren't going well.
Mhm.
And,
I'd like to think that everybody would be on board for a simple, approach like that. We're just looking to try to get some answers and confirm that everything is working, the way it should be.
Well, you would hope so. I mean, I did a program at the beach today, and I mean, it was kind of sad. The kids wanted to go down and play in the sand and splash around in the water, and they couldn't. I mean, it's just, this is a town resource, and like you said, we want to protect it for generations to come, and it's kind of up to us to do it.
the other thing that I happen to have a thought of, and obviously the Charles River, they've been working on that for a long time, cleaning that up, and they've done a great job. I don't know if there's any type of an organization that was involved in that cleanup. Someone we could, tap and reach out to for advice on this. Because I mean, the Charles River, in my short lifetime, has come a long way.
Sure.
Yeah,
it is, yeah.
So in Milford, they dredged the Cedar Street swamp and cleaned that up.
Right.
So I mean, maybe the town of Milford, somebody that might have worked on that project, could give us some advice on someone that we might want to put on that panel to talk to. Because I think, Milford, from what I understand, at one time you used to be able to swim and boat in that swamp. But I know they spent a lot of time and effort to dredge that thing out. I don't know if they put a boat launch in. I haven't gone down there, but that whole area adjacent to what used to be the Milford Town Dump, beautiful fields now, a pavilion, the whole bit. So, maybe someone that worked on that project along with the water, which is what we're interested in, can give us some advice.
I think people are making choices in the lake too. I mean, the beach is closed, but I mean, they're like, even as I was leaving today, there were people out on their jet skis, and I mean, that if they're making a choice to go out and use the lake and you know?
Oh, yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
if you're not drinking it, you don't have any open
Right,
cuts, and you're
right.
willing to shower off
Right.
really well,
right,
that number probably is acceptable
right.
for that.
Right,
I mean, we're really trying to protect the young people
right,
or someone who may have, I
Right.
mean, I'm all scraped up. I wouldn't go in.
right.
Um,
But it's funny, what did catch my eye when Jack showed me an email, I think that came from Kathleen, and sent that representation of testing.
Yes.
At least it was from last year.
Mhm.
There was one test on there, one test result. It was over 13,000.
Really?
Hmm.
So that would, to me, would equal
And
that
what was the
level.
location? Do you remember?
I want to say it was the yacht area.
It was the yacht area.
Okay.
In the yacht club?
Yeah.
In the yacht club area.
Cool.
Yeah, that's where it's consistently coming back with the high levels.
A number like that would kind of equate to what, remember back a few years ago, we did a meeting here. We had that, the woman in from Microbac,
Yeah.
when somebody raised the concern about septic contamination, the young lady had indicated that if that was the source of the problem,
Mhm.
the numbers would be off the charts.
Hmm.
Well, that's an example to me of an off-the-chart number. Now, granted, there could be other things too, but it does make me wonder,
Oh, absolutely.
Hmm.
you know,
Mm.
is
I mean,
there,
if acceptable is in the few hundreds,
Right.
13,000.
yep.
That's,
Right.
I'd have to test that one again and make sure I was reading it
Right,
right,
right.
you know?
The other thing too, what I'd like to see if we could do is to add testing, add to our testing component.
In different areas of the lake, you
yeah.
mean? Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I'd actually like to incorporate, actually, I'd like to go back. Apparently something we stopped and I didn't realize it. We used to do multiple tests at the beach. A few years ago, we started doing it because of concerns. I thought it was continuing, but we might have only done it that
Well, I
season.
think the problem we ran into is, I had suggested, I believe I had suggested that if they took it from 4 different areas and made a composite sample,
Yeah,
the problem is that is against like the rules of
Science.
chemistry.
yeah.
Okay, so what I thought with my mind would give us a better picture
Yeah.
doesn't qualify.
Well,
So
no,
I
but you
think
could
that's
still,
why they went back to just doing one sample from one spot.
well, you could still take the 3 samples, you just keep your test results separate.
Right.
So you take a left, a center, and a right. So you take the
Mhm.
extremes of the beach area and the center. I think right now all they're doing is a center test.
I believe that's right.
Because a few years ago, we had concern about stormwater coming down along the beach, if you recall. But I think that issue has been addressed because they changed the setup there along the right side of the beach outside the fence area.
Okay,
So I don't know that that is much of an issue because you have things that are coming down from the park and underneath the road and.
well, I mean, that beach has got to be a few hundred feet.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, one spot really isn't going to give you a great picture.
Well,
So
and I don't know what.
I'm with you as to expanding. Yeah, but even if you do it in the center, there's 50 feet or 100 feet that way and 50 or 100 feet that way, that could make a difference.
It could, I guess.
So
this is
I
what we
think you're
need.
right. If they need to do, more sites
Yeah,
and the cost was minimal.
yeah, I believe it was.
Yeah, wasn't it like $75 to get them to show up and
Yes.
$25 for
Yep.
each test?
Yes.
Well, for the one
We
we do
do-
for the E. coli, it's 40, might be
We
40.
were paying 65 for E. coli and 150 for the nitrogen series.
Okay, so
That
this
was
that
for
added
several
element
locations.
that Dan talked about, instead of just E. coli, add
Right.
to that testing the nitrate part of it.
Right.
And in addition to doing the beach, actually go to at least 4 different test points on the lake. Cove being one, the other corner where you come in on Kinsley, further down Kinsley, probably down near where you are,
Mhm.
and then over by where Grandview is, as a test point as well.
We were doing 10 spots. I mean, I'm not sure exactly where each one was, but going back to the beach, I think when we were testing around the beach area, one spot that was high, but I don't think it was off the chart, was where I think it's like a pathway coming down. If you're facing the beach from the water, it would be on the left-hand side. I think it's a tarred area where people can carry their boats down in.
Yeah, that's supposed to where we
Oh,
walk
if you're
down.
facing the-
Yes,
facing
it's
the
a
beach,
walk
yeah.
down.
Yeah, that walkway that
Yes,
the highway department kind of cleaned
Right.
up and made it a nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that may be because the water flows a little bit more easily in that area. I don't know. I think that was a higher spot there.
Right.
But yeah, we were doing over by Grandview, over by the outlet. And those areas all seem to be fine.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So, again,
We
I
were
don't,
doing 10 spots.
I mean, did they,
What were you spending annually, do you remember?
I don't know. Each test, Joan forwarded me this, the E. coli was 65. The other test was 150, and we were delivering them over to Westboro, so it wasn't,
So you were actually drawing the test, you guys?
I'm not sure about that now that I said that. I'm not sure. I think we had them come over and do that. I think we brought it just this one time at the beginning of
Okay.
of this year.
Well, we definitely have to expand it, and I believe Selectman Tenio at the last meeting said that there shouldn't be a problem increasing the budget for testing.
Mhm.
So, you know.
I don't honestly
It
think
sounds
we'll
as
have
though
to do it.
everybody's on the board,
yeah, I honestly
and
think.
it's not
we
a
have-
lot of money.
I think we have enough in our budget to handle the
But
addition.
it's, I don't, I mean, if you're testing, I don't think we should be testing. Let's
No,
no.
get together and let's all test.
Agreed, there's no
One
sense in.
source doing it.
Right, and make sure that the results are,
Right.
shared,
Right.
Right. Yeah.
because you live there, you're the eyes on the lake.
Hmm.
So, the information has to be shared
Mhm.
back and forth so that we can really get a clear picture as to what's going on. So,
But I think we should concentrate on that area, the beach area. I mean, let's try to keep the beach open. If we can test and whatever we need to do over
well, as
there.
Dan said, the problem is that it takes like 24 hours for the test to incubate,
Right,
and then you get the result. Now you got to shut it down. You
Right.
got to wait 24 hours to
Right.
retest, 24 hours
Right.
to incubate. It's not,
See, I'm still not sold on how we're doing it from a process perspective.
well, maybe someone
And we need,
talked about that's willing to come and talk to us that has a background in chemistry can,
no, I mean from a closing the beach perspective.
okay?
because last week, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was closed on a Wednesday, but they were able to open it on Thursday, the next day.
Yeah, so what it always traditionally is, or historically had been happening is whenever we had a bad E. coli test, we were closing the beach right away. Then in doing some research, I thought I could come across a language that said, if you have a high E. coli test, you're allowed within a 24-hour period to test again. And if the test comes back okay, you're fine. So it's almost like you have a 24-hour grace period before you have to close the beach. And I think
That sounds very.
we've gotten away from that. And it seems like, but we're not getting the test result back until 48 hours later. So I don't know if that is automatically, the thinking is that because of that, we automatically have to close the beach. I'd still like some validation on that process, to be honest with you.
Is Dan Byer making the official word when he gets the results?
Well, yeah, Dan's making the call because they oversee the beach, so.
Yeah, so we need to talk with Dan and make sure that we're following the right procedure.
Well, I think what we need to do is, I think it's an interpretation issue here. So Dan sees the same language that we've looked at, and I think it's a matter of how potentially you want to interpret it. Where maybe we need to go is actually to the state, because these guidelines are handed down by the state to the locals. It's not made up by us, it's made up by the state. So we need to go to the source
And get an explanation.
who's providing the language and say, look, we need some clarification and education on this. What is the correct process to follow if we have a high E. coli? At what point do we really have to consider closing the beach? Do we have a little buffer here before we actually have to make that call?
So if it's closed today, is it going to be tested again tomorrow?
I know we test twice a week. over there.
I think that's how it works.
And it's Mondays, I think it's actually Mondays and, yeah, Mondays and Wednesdays. So it was closed today because of Monday's test result. I think there was another test that was done today, which we won't get back until Friday. Because the tests
So-
aren't coming back to us the next day. They're coming back to us in 48 hours.
So that means it'll be closed tomorrow.
Yeah,
So it'd be-
it seems to be more lag time
Yeah,
from the test to when we get the results than what we're used to in the past.
yeah.
It seems to be, like you mentioned, double the time.
Hmm.
It's operating differently than what it had been the last 2 or 3 years. And that's why I say I don't, I'm not, I can't swear that we're following the rules correctly as far as how we're closing and when we're closing the beach. Because there may not be the need to do the closing that we're doing. I don't know, but, and again, I'm not saying that, I don't want folks to kind of feel uncomfortable when I say that, oh, the E. coli is high, you should close it right away. Well, what is high, right? So when you're talking numbers, based on what we typically see, I mean, what I think is a comfortable number that the state sets. There's room for margin there, when you're setting standards. So just because it automatically comes up high, that doesn't in and of itself mean, oh, that's bad for people. People should stay away. So that's why I think they give that little buffer there, because I think as they know, outside elements can affect testing and how that E. coli level can go up and down.
Well, either that, we gotta find out what changed.
Right.
Right.
Why do we feel as though the time from the testing to the results to the closing to the reopening we seem to kill a week?
Right.
Exactly.
Before, it seems as though we'd lose a day or two. So,
And unfortunately, without we're working on this new notification plan. People don't find out it's closed until they go to the beach and they see the sign posted that it's closed, which is, not the most efficient as far as communicating goes. If it does close, I'd actually like to see us communicating that out to everybody around the lake in that, code red fashion that,
Well, even around town, I think a lot of people come from, they come from other areas of the town and want to spend the day there as well, too. So it's
Oh, sure,
not just,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, this could be something that I would advertise out to the community, not just the lake people.
Right.
The primary group, but every resident in town.
Mm.
So that everybody could have potentially share in this notification, so that everybody knows when it's closed.
I mean, it's a nice beach.
It is,
It really is.
It's only going to get nicer.
Mm.
all right, so we're still working on the panel. We have those questions about the testing procedure and the lag times that we seem to be experiencing. We're still working on finalizing a more efficient notification system.
I appreciate all the hard work that you put into this.
Not a problem.
Much appreciated. May I take a few of these?
Oh,
Yeah, you
absolutely.
can take them all if you like.
I know people will really appreciate seeing these, so. Very good. Thank you
Yeah,
very much.
if you know of anyone that may want them, emailed electronically, Jack can,
Okay.
Yep.
No,
send them off that way.
No, I think this will generate some great topics at our next Lake Association. Appreciate the work and the effort.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
it
Anytime.
continues, Wayne. It continues.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
All right, you're welcome.
Have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Okay, the next item on the agenda, and I believe we have the Greens that would maybe like to speak. No? Okay, so we're gonna talk about the rooster noise nuisance follow-up. All right. I visited 18A Neck Hill Road. After you informed me that there was another complaint about the rooster at that location. I went there approximately somewhere between 6 and 6:30 in the morning. I don't remember what day. The chickens were out in the yard at the time, in the rear of the yard. I did notice that the house is a two-family. It's a duplex,
Yeah.
if I got the right house.
Yep.
Didn't look like anyone was stirring at that hour. So I went up, turned around, I parked in front of the house on the street, and just kind of observed to see what was going on there. I didn't hear any noise from that particular rooster at that time. I was trying to take note of maybe the vehicle that the homeowner drove, so that maybe when I see that vehicle there, I could approach him and talk with him about some of the suggestions that have been made by the Ag Committee on quieting his rooster. Because all the visits that have been done by the Board of Health with the animal inspector, they've always talked to the missus. And from what we understand, it's the Mr.'s project. So just in case information's not going back and forth on that particular subject, I was more than willing to try to have a conversation with the gentleman and, you know, again, present the suggestions to quiet that rooster down. I haven't had the opportunity to go there when his vehicle is in the yard. So that's all I can say on that particular rooster. I believe you're here for a different rooster.
No, it was just roosters in general.
Okay. All right.
Not Tricia, I'm sorry. Ann Mazzarelli did email me yesterday morning to let us know that the rooster is still having an issue. And I believe Ann is on there. She's
Yep, I am here. Thank you. Yes, it has been growing at 5:30 in the morning. It starts whenever the sun rises. So earlier in the summer, it was like 4:30. In the last 2 weeks since we had this last meeting, it's been starting at 5:35. This morning, it crowed from 5:35 to about 5:45, and then it stopped, and then it started at about 10 of 6, and it crowed till 6 nonstop, you know, every 12 to 15 seconds, and then it stopped completely, and then it started at 7 gangbusters. So it's still crowing before 7. Lately, it's been starting at 5:30, and I live right next door. My bedroom window looks out over their property, and I can hear it loud and clear still.
I know our animal inspector, our temporary animal inspector said that we kind of have exhausted our visits there without harassing the homeowner.
That's what she thinks, yes.
Which I personally disagree with,
Yeah,
Well,
because,
just for the record.
yeah, the neighbors are being harassed. It's more like it.
No, I understand. And the missus of the house seems to be very cooperative, but again, I'm not sure if the information is being
Relayed to the husband.
relayed. The only other thing I can think of, other than what I've been trying to do, it looks like the gentleman drives a black Dodge pickup truck. I
Yes.
was hoping to catch him when he was not working and home. Do we send a certified letter? And say, hey, you know, and address it to him when this is his project. Get it signed for, and then we, you know.
Unless you want to try to make a visit, try again on the weekend in person with a letter. I think from my perspective, I'd actually like to make a cease and desist. And outline.
Based on the noise
As
component.
my view is that this can be handled, still falls under a nuisance. And based on conversation that I've had with, I mentioned that group, was it the Mass Board of Health, Massachusetts Boards of Health? Yeah. They kind of help local boards of health with authoritative situations.
Right.
And, you know, they were pretty certain that something like this, the local board of health could act if they feel, in its opinion, is a nuisance and is affecting others in the community negatively. So my view is to present a cease and desist order we could do a hand delivered letter or certified mail. But cease and desist, unless you're able to follow this compliance, and the compliance would be, as we've kind of talked about, change the housing, which they have apparently not done. And that was a suggestion that was made by, the folks at the agricultural group. They feel that doing that adjustment, which is part of what they presented in, looking at potential rooster permitting / regulation, has a good means to reduce the crowing. And the idea being that between the hours of 7 p.m. and 7 a.m., the rooster is in a confined area where light is reduced or eliminated, so it takes away that crowing element. And it seemed that, the folks who were kind of most affected felt that if we could mitigate it to the point where it wouldn't happen at least until 7 a.m., that would be considered acceptable.
Yeah.
So that piece, we really haven't gotten to this gentleman to really say, and we haven't outlined that. So my view is to take that approach. But
Okay, now, so if we're going to issue a cease and desist, what are we going to cite? What rule? Or
be Chapter 111, Section 122, and Section 123.
Okay.
And if we needed some guidance in creating the cease and desist from a format perspective, Mike Lugo, who's the gentleman I had spoken to a couple weeks ago about the whole situation, was more than willing to provide, consult and create a format and, assist in the process. So that would be my take on it.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yep.
We seem to have a group of people in town that went to town meeting and didn't want a rooster regulation. We've had a gentleman call in, I believe, from Washington Street that is new to town, and he really, what drew him to Mendon, he really didn't want to see a rooster regulation. So we don't have any.
So you folks are being negatively impacted by this as well? Is that, or are you just an interested party?
We had a rooster for a year and a half,
15 months.
15 months. There was a little bit of a 6-week window where it didn't crow. But the rooster we had in our backyard would crow at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, different times of the morning.
Yep.
It would wake you up. You couldn't keep a window open at all because of this thing.
Yep.
And we filed that petition. We're not against roosters, but I didn't know what else to do. We've been to police, we've been to the selectmen, we've been to animal control. I even sent you, Tom, an email back in March saying, our health is being affected by this. We're not sleeping, the thing's waking us up. What can we do? So we can hear this one, Neck Hill, but not as much as we could hear the one across the street from it.
What was that, 19?
And they had 3.
The one that we were here.
19 Daniels?
No, 19 Neck Hill, which is in
Oh.
our backyard, so that's what we were hearing.
Okay. Is that across the street?
Opposite side of the street.
That's exactly, right across the street.
Right,
Okay.
So our fear is, what we went through last year was in the summer months, when 19 got rid of the rooster, that then they're gonna get it back.
Right.
If they get it back, then we're gonna be like Ann,
Yep.
fretful for what's gonna happen again. I don't know how you feel, but do you feel comfortable going to this home, knowing that this gentleman is in your room? What is going on?
What's the worst thing you could do to me?
You don't want me to answer that.
Unfortunately, where we don't have rooster regulations in place and where people are torn as to whether they want them or don't want them, we need a mechanism to do what Tom wants to do,
Yeah.
so that we can prevent situations like you've experienced and like Anna's experiencing. Or, and if there isn't a mechanism to do that without a regulation, there really is no choice but to have regulations.
Well, so my position is that we have a mechanism, and that's the nuisance guideline. that exists on, that every local board of health has. And again, it's based on, if in the opinion, in evidence presented, so that you have a nuisance, a health-related, noise-related, whatever the nuisance might be, it's within the jurisdiction and the authority of the local board of health to act to mitigate the nuisance or remove the nuisance. It's to me, it's kind of straightforward. And it's a question of just, I know we want to be kind of nice and kind in the process, but my view is at this point, especially since that individual has not returned a call back to Danielle, which I'm not happy about. I'm going to look at that as no effort on their part to correct the problem. So if that's the case, my view is create a cease and desist order, outline it accordingly. You're going to have to do this, or the rooster's out.
And we're gonna cite that.
Yep, that chapter and those sections.
I'm on board.
And
I
then
hope it works.
I guess the question would be, how long would it, should it be immediate? I mean, I don't own roosters, so I don't know. Should we see the effect immediately? Because I think they're reacting to the sunrise, right, to the light possibly, but not always, because they're crowing at different hours. I don't know if anybody on the call can respond to that.
I know. When the sun rose at like 4:30, it was crowing at 4:30. Now it's crowing a little bit later at 5:30. But I think it's because it's a plastic coop and the door is always open. So I think as soon as it sees the sun, it's gonna crow. So
Don't they also crow if there's a threat?
yes.
Basically, so, with
There's a
all
fox
the,
that runs around.
right, with all the wildlife that, if the rooster isn't contained,
Right.
the rooster feels threatened, it could be 1 o'clock in the morning, the rooster's gonna crow.
That's what we used to think, that there were other animals going around. But still, we didn't hear the other animals, we just heard the rooster.
Because they don't crow.
Correct. A fishing fan, a coyote, we
Right.
would hear coyotes howl at night.
So I think the Agricultural Commission has provided a good solution to present to this homeowner.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that would simply be to change the housing of the rooster.
Yeah.
Mitigate, put it in an environment where it's noise reducing and light reducing to the point where the crowing wouldn't happen. The rooster would not want to crow.
Right, or if the rooster did crow with the insulation, it would reduce,
It would mitigate
The
the
noise,
noise level
the
to
noise.
to the neighbors. Correct.
so, there's more than one thing helping to either prevent the transmission of the noise or to prevent the crowing. I'm on board. Do we need to take some kind of a vote to do that?
I'll make the motion.
All right, I'll second it.
I mean, I'll make the motion that we, that the board
Thank you.
create a cease and desist order to mitigate the noise emanating from a rooster at 18 Neck Hill, 18A Neck
Yeah, I
Hill
believe
Road.
it's 18A. Double check,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but it's a duplex.
And that the cease and desist would outline the requirement for what the homeowner would need to do.
And
and
we
then
have
we-
to cite,
And we could, cite the
definitely cite.
Chapter 111, Section 122 and Section 123.
Do we want to include that in print so he can read it?
We'd include that in the cease and desist, and what I'd be glad to do is I could reach out to Mike Hugo to work with the format and get a document created.
Mhm.
And the question is delivery. Do we want to hand deliver this? That might be the way to go.
Do you need a constable of some sort or police officer?
I guess I could take a recommendation from Mike. I mean, we could do that. I wouldn't have a problem in going myself, but during the daytime, we're not going to find the gentleman home, he works.
Right, but at least we know what he drives. So, and we are in town.
Yep.
It's just a matter of seeing the vehicle there and knocking on the door and hoping he comes to the door.
Well, who's going to spend the time to create a neighborhood watch to say, hey, when that truck shows up, give us a call. You know what I mean?
And I can go with you as a witness and you could just tell the wife, well, like, he needs to
You
open
could,
this.
yeah, I mean, again, I could bring an officer, I just, I always find sometimes.
Well, yeah, we're not trying to intimidate anybody.
No, exactly.
We're just trying to get some action.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, in all fairness, we just haven't really presented directly to them the action they need to take. I think we've been kind of going around a couple of circles here. And,
I'm all for whatever method works.
so,
And, if it works, this is going to be our method to take care of these situations
Yeah.
Until we get a strong enough group of people that want to have regulations, or the Ag Committee comes up with another suggestion.
well, the actual decision on whether we do regulations is actually on the board. It's not on the people of the town. We actually can create a regulation for this if we want to. I just don't, unless we really needed to. I'm not one that likes to create regulations personally. And it always seems to be we create regulations because some entity, something's happening, and we create a regulation that affects everybody in the community, right? So I'm just trying not to go overboard, not to say I'm against doing a regulation, or actually, better yet, maybe better phrasing for this might be rooster permitting guidelines, because there is a desire to, just from the standpoint of knowledge, to know who has these chicks and roosters in the community, because it actually would be a benefit to the Board of Health from an inspection standpoint, because we do animal inspections, what they call barn, we have what's called a barn book. We go around the community and do inspections every year to make sure the animals are healthy and so forth. This would be a piece of that, where we would incorporate it. We want to make sure that the folks who are doing this, at their property, the chicks and the roosters are being treated well, and they're doing what they should do. So it would kind of become part of that. So there's still room to create a formal, permitting type of structure. Call it a reg, call it permitting, but I think for this issue, I think we have something at our disposal to utilize to make the call, to say, stop.
When we started these complaints about the rooster, there were probably other people in town that have a rooster that's not annoying their neighbor. So
Yes.
they would have fallen under this jurisdiction of causing a noise nuisance, which, so, you know what I'm saying? So I understand what you're saying, not to put a regulation that's going to affect the entire town, but to have something in place when it does create a noise nuisance to the neighbors.
Right.
Can I just ask one question? When you went to that home, when I look at 18, it's the property to the left, right?
To the right.
Right, to the right. So the way I would think that, because it starts, the lower numbers are at the end of Nicholas, so that would be the B, not the A.
Yeah,
But I don't know. what-
Yeah, I thought I was reading the mailbox. So maybe the mailboxes don't correspond on the post to the house.
You know what I'm saying? B would be the one that would be.
Well, right, if you're reading from left to right, you would think A would be on the left and B would be on the right. So, I mean, we need to double check
Yeah.
that.
Do we know the resident's name by any chance?
So say again?
Do we know the resident's name by any chance at this 18 Neck Hill location?
Look that up.
Well, I can look it up, 18A and 18B, and,
KVS.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
Right, but we still need to know
the right.
if A and B, what side they're on. See, sometimes the numbers run from town out. So I don't know how that would affect a duplex, because it would be the same number, but A, B, or A, B, C, D. But-
Dan, did you have anything to say? Ann?
Oh, I was just looking up, Neck Hill Road, 18A and B on Neck Hill. No, I just agree with what Terry said. I mean, we've done everything. We've, complained to animal control, the police, I mean, for the last year for us, and we haven't seen any action, and we really appreciate anything you can do to help us with the situation, because it'll be a year next month that we've been putting up with this. And yeah, so we really appreciate any effort and that you can do to help us out with this situation.
Well, you folks are entitled to enjoy your property, so it's all about fairness, and I'd like to think that homeowner would understand that, but.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the issue here is I can't imagine a neighbor that would allow his rooster to crow nonstop like that at 5:30 in the morning. I mean, after 7, okay. I mean, I love animals, you know, it's not the prettiest sound, but 5:30, 4:30 in the morning, and then like Terry and Dick were saying, you know, 1 a.m., that's just not right. That's just not right.
I agree. I agree. So let's take the steps we just proposed.
Yeah, as long as we cite
Yep,
that, you know, mass law
yep,
and hope that we get some action.
yeah. And if we don't, well, then my view is if we don't, we're going to remove it because that's within our authority to do that. If the homeowner is unwilling to take the simple step that we're going to outline in the cease and desist, sorry, we're going to take the rooster. In my view, it's not fair to other neighbors. We're just asking them to, you know, keep it within hours that are considered reasonable.
Right. No, I
Right.
And one other thing, when we did the petition in order to get it on the ballot, we went around to the neighborhood. We did this in 1 weekend, one Saturday, one Sunday. We got 29 families. And out of the 29, 25 families told us that we're going to sign because it bothers us, but we really don't want any problems with the neighbors because we're not quite sure how this is going to work out. So there was, and that's why I'm just mentioning to you, but I feel like that, of how we don't want retaliation, is what we're saying, a lot of the people that signed it.
Right.
In 1 weekend, we had 29 families between Neck Hill Road, Daniels Road, and right around on Big Nell, that were all bothered by these roosters.
Right.
Because at that point, we had 5.
Right.
I think 19 had 3 and 2 over at 18. So it was like nonstop.
Yep.
I'm surprised the people on the other side of the duplex, on the other side of the wall from this family, aren't bothered by it.
That was one of the first things that came up in a visit that I did with Danielle, our health agent. And I hadn't realized it, and I should have, that it was a duplex. First thing Danielle had mentioned, Jesus, the neighbor next door complaining? But apparently, not to our knowledge.
We don't know.
But who knows?
They get free eggs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, there you go. There might be a
I'd
trade.
rather have free sleep.
Yeah.
I know, I walk early in the morning on Bicknell. I can hear it. And I've spoken to people on Bicknell and they're bothered by it too, but they don't, you know, they don't want to say anything. The people that are directly behind these, you know, 18A and B.
And I understand that. You're just trying to simply be good neighbors, but everybody has the right to enjoy their property equally. And, you know, we are agricultural in nature in Mendon. I get that. But there has to be a little bit of a respect with what you do, those around you. And like I said, I just don't, I'm not sure if we've really been, I think we've kind of gone around in a circle a little bit here, and I don't think we've really been direct with the way we probably should have been with the folks there at that residence. But it doesn't help that we made a visit and we didn't get a response back. So unfortunately, that's at least a strike, you know, against them from my perspective. So I believe that this is a good action to take. I think it's a fair action to take. And my hope is that they'll just take it for what it is. And we're not saying we're coming to take the bird right away. We're just saying this is what you need to do. And it just seems like a simple solution, an acceptable solution. And if you're just not able to do that, then we are going to have to remove it. Or they'll have to.
Okay, so motion has passed for a cease and desist order for 18 Nick Hill Road.
Aye. Tom Fickner, aye.
Aye.
Motion has passed.
Thank you very much.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And then if you folks want to be posted on what we find, if you want, I mean, you have obviously our email, and we have their email.
No, we do.
If you wanted to send along an email so we could respond back to you in communication.
Okay.
Keep you in the loop. I know we have Ann, we have your email, and if there's
Right.
anybody else that might be on it, as part of this, I think it might just be Ann, but, so keep you in the loop communication-wise with, when we actually make the presentation, so you'll know when we did it. And we hope in short order, you know the result.
Yeah.
Not hearing anything at that wee hour. And again, we would count on you folks, once we let you know when this has been presented to them, within a few days, what you've been hearing, say within 2 or 3 days. I know, Ann, you've been kind enough to stay in touch with us, but you folks, yep, we're still hearing it X number of days after. And then we'll make the call to take the next step, which in my view is to remove it.
Great.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you folks.
Thanks very much.
All right, Ann.
Yeah, thanks. Take care. Good
All right,
night.
bye.
Good night.
Bye.
I know I saw in some of the information that you sent me, Jack, there was a line where the suggestion was made that if you were thinking of keeping hobby birds, keeping, chickens, and might have a rooster, to like talk to your neighbors first and
Yeah.
see how they feel about it, just in case, the birds that you're trying to hobby with create a problem.
Yeah.
I was like, makes a lot of sense.
It's funny, and I was going to mention this, but I had kind of forgotten until just now. I know that there's a resident up on Washington Street that has one, and actually has sent me a photo of what they do for setup. And he says he's actually invited us to pop by to see how it works, but it's actually he's got an enclosed coop that the rooster goes into.
Mhm.
And it almost sounds like there's some sort of automatic setup, like there's a timer on it where the door will open and then the door will close, but I don't know how it gets it into the box, but it's like an enclosed area so that it stays quiet for those hours that it needs to stay quiet. And then it's let back out at I guess what would be a respectable
Yeah.
time. I was actually going to pop up and see what that setup's like. Maybe
Okay, so we definitely need to confirm the correct address.
Correct.
For that place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's hope we get some action without having to take any more action. There was another clip in there of, 2 or 3 sentences about a situation in Uxbridge where Uxbridge actually had to get a court order to deal with the rooster.
Where was this?
It was some of the stuff that Jack sent me.
Oh,
Obviously, you didn't do your homework.
oh, I'm sorry.
Um,
I'm a bad boy.
No, this was good reading. This really was. Let's
Oh, that
see.
was in that packet. I
Yeah.
know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, who's meeting by the pool?
Yes,
Oh, yeah, my crib notes.
yes, my apologies.
Let's see. A similar situation in Uxbridge last year was resolved without loss of life when noisy roosters were ordered removed by a court after a determined effort by the Board of Health.
Here you go.
Now, I don't know if Uxbridge has any formal regulations. Let me see. They have something, no person shall keep or allowed to be kept any number of domestic animals which shall constitute a nuisance. So that would cover any animal. Let's see, registered and treated as livestock, no person shall keep or allowed to be kept any number of domestic animals which shall constitute a nuisance. And that's in Uxbridge in the information you sent me.
And in that conversation I had with Michael about this whole issue nuisance and our authority to act within, under nuisance guidance. There have been cases in the past, legal cases that go way back. From a legal perspective, I know Tom gets concerned about legal, somebody looking to, say, oh, you did me an injustice, so I'm going to sue type of thing. But that typically, from a legal perspective, courts tend to side with the local board of health, so long as, and I'll use that wonderful phrase, so long as they're not being, what is it, Jack?
Arbitrary and capricious?
Arbitrary and capricious. So we're citing based on, some founded situations here that, I think are valid. Everybody's-
I mean, I know it's come up, but if you had a barking dog that was a nuisance,
Yeah,
I tried
you would
looking that
call
up.
animal control.
but we have, when it comes to dogs, we have coverage under that in our bylaws,
Okay.
specifically
So
for dogs.
do we have like I'll call it a leash law? For no-
Yeah, I don't think they call it, but there's a section within our bylaws that covers issues with dogs.
Nuisance dogs.
Nuisance dogs.
Yes.
And how you handle dogs. There's a whole outline in our bylaws, so that's covered. It's just that from a livestock perspective, there's no guideline, or no regulation, no bylaw that exists. But again, a local board of health having the ability to act on something that's a nuisance.
Okay, and circling back, the Ag Committee proposing a rooster permitting process.
Mhm.
So if we called it a rooster permitting process, that really isn't a regulation,
That's correct.
right? So like you
That's
brought
correct.
up, it's just sort of a way of tracking who has a rooster in town, the conditions under which they are to keep that rooster,
Mhm.
and the consequences if that rooster isn't kept in check.
Correct. Because we could
See-
act as a nuisance. If there was a problem. But, I do see.
So that really isn't another regulation. It's really not another law
No?
or a restriction that we're, imposing on anybody. It's just, this is the rule if you want to have a permitted rooster.
And to be
So-
honest with you, I know sometimes folks think about permitting and they think along the lines of, oh, what's the fee for that going to be? I don't know. Do we even really necessarily need to have a fee to go with that? We just simply, I think our concern from a board of health perspective, because we have oversight to animal inspection as part of what we do. Our goal, from my view, is to simply want to make sure the animals are accounted for so that they could be inspected during the course of the year through the bond inspection process, the bond book, and just be included. I don't know that,
Well, I
have
mean-
them, I don't know that we need to apply a fee to have the permit.
Yeah.
Just,
I paid 10 or 15 bucks a year for a dog license because that's the rule.
Mhm.
well, I guess you
Doesn't
could use that as
necessarily
a,
bother me,
yeah,
I mean, the rule is you have a dog, you're supposed to have it licensed. So I follow the law. I follow the rule.
And again, we don't know how many roosters there are out there. This could only be like $100 tops, like could be 10 roosters.
Yeah, I think it's obviously more than we think.
Yeah, I know my wife and daughter heard one on Taft Ave at like 20 past 6 in the morning when they were out walking. But obviously that rooster isn't a problem
Yes.
because the neighbors haven't complained. So it can't be a problem like the Greens were experiencing
Mhm.
or Anna's experiencing where it's just nonstop at all hours.
Mhm.
6:20 isn't 7 a.m., but it's not 4:30 in the morning either. So that particular rooster, because my wife and daughter frequent going up and down Taft Ave in the morning, it's not its normal practice to be out there crowing away.
Right.
I mean, I'm trying to think who it was from the Ag Committee said there were just some bad roosters.
We have Catherine who would like to.
Oh, Catherine's got a hand up.
Hello.
Hello.
Of the Ag Commission. I think our whole reasoning behind making that regulation was so that there was kind of accountability for the roosters and know what kind of housing they need, what kind of I don't know, just structure in general for people, guidelines for people to follow. Obviously, there are way more roosters than we know about because, like you said, there's ones on Taft Ave that people hear and, they're obviously not obnoxious. So it's not a problem right now. But those other ones in the same neighborhood, they're probably crowing back and forth to each other and creating the nuisance. Obviously, those folks don't have guidelines of how to, contain them, what kind of structure they need. And, you've definitely made some moves to try to get in contact with them and explain to them. And obviously that is difficult, but I think it's just a way to hold people accountable. And for people who are thinking about getting roosters, they can, I don't know, maybe look this up like, oh, I haven't gotten a rooster yet. I'm thinking of getting one for X, Y, and Z reasons. And they can look into it. Oh, Mendon actually has regulations on it. I mean, I don't know. That might be a bit far-fetched. People might not do that, but at least have something out there saying, this is what we recommend. And yeah, if you guys don't want a fine, obviously there doesn't have to be a fine or a fee associated with the permit, but I think there should be some sort of punishment or repercussions to them not following through with the housing, with the confinement and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think another good word to throw in there, Catherine, on your description is accountability being part of it, but really educational. I think that you might have folks out there that want to partake in something like this, and maybe they just don't have a good resource for education. So something like this could provide education, which I think what the Ag Commission has provided us is very good. It's educating in its language, in its guidance, in what it recommends. So that's why I could see us going the direction of creating a permitting element for those reasons.
And earlier you were just mentioning Uxbridge's kind of regulations and whatnot, and they seem to have a more broad livestock, I think you said. I am only speaking for myself, but I think I speak for the whole Agricultural Commission on this. It doesn't look like anyone else is on. But we definitely wanted to keep it for roosters at this time because that's the only thing we're having issues with. Just because we are a right to farm community and we don't want to, I don't know, send the wrong message about other livestock, other animals. Of course, if there are nuisance issues, those will be addressed, but I worry that it would be used and abused by upset neighbors, from, I don't know, a cow mooing or something going on other than a rooster. Yeah, I worry about that kind of thing,
Yeah, I think what you're alluding to is something I think I brought up a couple of meetings ago. I used the phrasing a keeping of animals permit. That would be more and more encompassing to multiple livestock types of animals, as opposed to just roosters. With the thought being that is doing something just for roosters. I don't know if this is a good choice of words, but picking on the rooster, as opposed to creating something that kind of is an outline for all livestock, not to be restrictive in nature, but to be simply providing the same educational type of information on what somebody would want to do, say if they want to keep goats or something else. These are guidelines that we would recommend you would follow. And I guess if something were to happen and somebody, a neighbor or something had a problem with a different kind of a livestock animal, we could certainly still act on it based on how we're gonna act on this issue we talked about tonight, which is as a nuisance.
Mhm.
And simply treat it like that. That's where I think what your thought was, or what you were referencing. I think that was coming from my keeping of animals. So whether, I don't know if we'd go that way, maybe for now, we just do something with regard to, rooster permitting and kind of move forward slowly and see if other issues potentially could come up. Maybe just a rooster permitting element is all that's really something that we need to act on. Maybe a keeping of animals is too broad. I don't know.
Yeah, I think for this issue, it's too broad, but I agree. Let's move forward with the rooster thing, and then if there are other issues with other livestock, kind of deal with it as it comes. And we now hopefully will have, I don't know, have learned some things with this whole rooster issue, and we'll know how to better face the livestock issues down the road if they're.
Okay, great. Yeah.
All right. Well, I just want to thank you guys too. I'm also on the Lake Nipmuc Association, and Jack, you did wonderful. Like that. Wayne brought over your packet. That was wonderful. You did a lot. So thank you guys so much. It looks like we're moving forward in a lot of directions. So thank you.
Thank you.
And we do have to give credit. We do have to recognize our past administrative assistant, Missy.
Yes.
Who really started, with that, was it 3 or 4 years back?
Yes.
Oh, the septic. Yeah.
Point, Jack was able to bring this piece to finish, but Missy put in a lot of time and effort as well, trying to.
Don't doubt that. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, Jack was able to bring it home to this point, and we're going to continue. There's other elements that we want to continue to look at and assess with regard to, trying to keep that beach and that lake as healthy as possible,
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much.
Well, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
You
Thank
too.
you, you too.
Okay. All right, so we've got our plan of action to deal with that particular rooster.
Mhm.
And maybe when Joyce is up to speed, we can look and get her take, being a past board member and being a longtime Mendon resident, on whether we, move forward with permitting roosters.
Yeah, and which is,
I mean, any animal can be a problem. I mean, you could have the cutest goat and the goat gets loose and eats Jean's flowers, and now the goat's a problem.
yeah.
I had pigs way back when, and I would, if they got loose and rooted up somebody's vegetable garden, I was going to be getting a phone call.
Yep.
So all nice things to have and nice experiences, but if you don't have the complete education on how to keep them out of trouble,
Yeah.
any animal can unfortunately become, a nuisance if something happens over and over and over again.
Right.
And that seems to be what we're experiencing with the few problem roosters that are in town. So, and I mean, it's a minimal amount of money. I mean, we do have to cover our expenses, so to speak. Maybe, we could figure a way of, putting that money into, like an educational fund, or spending some of those receipts on publications that we could disperse to people that want to house animals.
Yeah. And I know, the Ag Commission had some really good ideas when we've had them on in the past about using certain elements to post educational information, whether it be
Yeah.
social media or,
Mhm.
Online classes or whatever.
Yeah.
So, we're not in trying to make money at it. We're just
no.
trying to cover our expenses. I know like I said, I licensed my dog, turn that money into the town clerk, get my little tag, and I'm happy to do it. I figure if, God forbid, something happens, my dog gets lost or whatever, he's got a license. Hopefully, we're gonna find him.
Yep.
So we can move on to the next topic?
Yep.
Are we gonna,
On the list.
do we want to talk about Rock the Block?
Rock the block.
Yes, Lonnie mentioned waiving the food permit application fees for all those that are pertaining to Rock the Block. We have done it for Zabrini Circus, so I don't know if you want to consider that a precedent for waiving the food permit fees. Just so basically, anybody that's offering food would not have to, they still have to get inspected by Danielle,
Right.
but they wouldn't have to pay the fee for, what is it, a 1 day?
Well, you
Or the
typically, for vendors who just show up for that isolated event, they get what's called a temporary food.
Yeah, that's
establishment
$50 for a
permit,
1 day.
$50 one.
Yep.
And, some folks who do multiple events in town, they're probably better off just getting the standard annual, which is only $50 more. It covers them for unlimited number of events. Like the folks that are doing the events over at Vandervalk.
So is Rock the Block a 1 day or a multiple day?
1 day.
Just 1 day? All right, so it'd be $50 per vendor.
Right. Now, you said we waived the fees for.
Zabrini Circus, the one we just had.
Just now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I guess that's been done every single year.
Okay.
Who's in charge of the Lions?
The Lions, yeah, okay, I missed that.
I don't forget his name. Who's in charge of the Lions Club?
Dick,
Dick. Every
Yeah.
year he said that we just waive it. Like,
well,
okay.
you do want to keep in mind, however, that probably should be approved formally
Okay.
by the board. Not to say we wouldn't have, but probably historically, that's what has been done. I think with that. Now, whether it always reached the board level, it might have been a conversation that might have happened, with the chair and.
Maybe, yeah.
No worries. Not a big deal. But we wouldn't want to assume that that's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
Probably should be, discussed and validated. Unless you want to have a hard and fast rule that says, okay, from now on, every year.
Yeah, that's the first I'm hearing of it. That's
Okay.
why I wanted to make sure I understood what you said. So yeah, maybe it was something that was in play before I came.
I will look into it. But I was
No,
told.
no, that's okay. Well, my opinion on this particular subject is that I am in favor of waiving the fee if it was a nonprofit organization. This is just my take on it. Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, National Honor Society from the school, a group like that. However, if it's someone coming into town that is going to make a profit because it's the business that they're in, then they have to be inspected and they have to pay for a temporary food permit. Because I don't want to set a precedent. If someone is giving all their food away, they still have to be inspected, but then they're giving it to the townspeople. That would be, a different story.
I believe that's how Lonnie phrased it the last time when he first brought it to our attention, that it's a town-sponsored event, the circus and the Rock the Block, and that's why the fees were to be waived or asked to be waived.
Do we know if we waived the fees for the 350th for the vendors that came in?
I believe so, we did.
Well,
Would you like?
if that is true, if we waive the fees for the people that participated in the 350th, whether they be nonprofit or for-profit, then this would be the same event.
I think that's, my recollection was that across the board, the fees were waived
for the 350th.
for when we did the block party.
Right.
We talked about the 350th block party.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that event, because we had multiple events.
Right. No, you're right. We had 13, so.
Yep. Ooh, I wouldn't have remembered that. That's pretty good.
First
only
one
12
was-
months in a year.
First
How'd
one
we
was
do?
ham and bean.
What was the extra?
Well, we started early.
Ah, okay, yeah, that's right. A month ahead, okay.
So the first one was.
Ham and bean
the
supper
Ham
at
and
the
bean
club,
supper at
yeah.
the school, yeah.
So I believe that's the case.
If we can confirm that, in the meantime,
I will confirm it in the meantime, and I can add it to the next agenda.
so do we remember what month that was?
It was in August, I want to say.
Okay. It was hot.
Yeah,
So it was the 350th committee, but it was the block party. And
Right.
It was in the month of August.
Okay.
And that was in the year of
2017,
20,
17.
okay, 2017.
That was our anniversary year. I'm just trying to think. We started ahead.
We
We started our events in 2016 and carried them through to
Right,
2017
because
to a certain point.
was it May? Was the birthday? When was the actual birthday?
Might have been May when we did the birthday cake
Yeah,
up at the club school.
okay.
That might have been May
So I think we started in September.
of the previous year,
Right.
2016, the ham and bean.
Right,
The
okay.
kickoff. Right.
All right, so if we set that precedent, then I have no problem following it. If not, you know what my opinion is, and that's just so that we don't get ourselves in a pinch.
Well, again,
One way for one thing and one way for somebody else.
but boards change. People change on boards, right? So
Mhm.
what might have been, you might have had a different set of individuals back in that time that thought differently versus now. Just so happens you have the same individuals.
You said it, not me.
Yes, I did, yeah. But, it's still worth, I don't know that I would just always want to consistently say that's the rule. I think it should always come before us,
Agreed.
Different circumstances could come into play. I don't know what, but you never know. So I wouldn't want to automatically say that that's a given. But I can understand where the events are for the town, townspeople. I understand that mindset about, not charging a fee on ourselves.
Well, it isn't the townspeople or the town of Mendon paying the fee, it's the vendor.
Well, that's true too, you're right.
That's
just
in
the vendor.
business.
Yeah. I guess it's
And I
about,
guess that's where I get
I
kind
hear
of
you.
torn, and that's why I say, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, nonprofit, school organization
Yep.
that is doing, fundraising,
Yep.
not an actual business.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, I
So
understand
that's
the argument. Oh,
Kind
yeah.
of how I divide it up.
Yep.
Just to try to be fair and consistent.
Yep. No, I understand that.
But please.
I will look into it.
Do what you can, and
We can have it back on the agenda for
yeah.
Joyce to
We'll have our
be
full
part.
board, full
Yep.
complement back in, and Joyce will be able to kind of weigh in as well. And
Yeah, well, she may remember some experiences at the 325th of how things were handled and why they were handled a certain way. All right, so now we're on to our next topic.
Yale Harvey Scholarship Awards.
All right.
Now, everybody's already seen number one. There was a second application that I found in my finance folder when I was cleaning out files. There was a second application, so now there is another application to make it now a full 2 scholarships. Since E.L. Harvey does have 2 $500 scholarships to be awarded. Mike Sespan did drop off the check for those scholarships.
And they both came in on time.
One came in right on the day of.
That's cool.
first sentence in paragraph 4. I wholeheartedly agree with. It's kind of a damn shame it's so expensive.
Yep. It's amazing how many kids work over at that zoo.
Oh, yeah, my daughter. Both my daughters at one point.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See, I didn't even know that.
Worked there.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I'm good with both of them, and it's kind of easy for us having 2 applicants and 2 scholarships to award, and I wish them both the best of luck.
Yeah.
Not that they need luck. They both seem to be prepared to do the work.
No, 2 great candidates.
That'll get them there. Very fortunate that E.L. Harvey is willing to do this with us.
No, it's been a great benefit having them as a partner, providing, scholarship, support, for the residents. So,
We need a formal vote.
motion? I'll motion to accept or to provide scholarships for the 2 candidates that have provided applications to the Board of Health.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Motion is passed.
One of the things I had talked to Jack about was whether or not we wanted to maybe consider even something that's on a regular basis moving forward if they wanted to do a presentation, to them.
Yeah, it's been a few years since we've had the opportunity to do that. I remember doing it once out here,
Yeah, yeah,
but that was a number of years ago
a
now,
while back.
because
Yeah.
I was new to the board.
I think it would be kind of nice, for E.L. Harvey, whether it be Mike or
Sure.
someone else that wants to come from their office.
Let's see, it's the end of July, so we don't have a lot of time. These kids will be going off to school quick.
No, true. Well, we could,
We'll probably only have like a 2 or 3 week window.
yeah. Well, it'd be a matter, I guess, of reaching out to the families, let them know they've been awarded the scholarships,
Yep.
right? Ask them how they feel about, trying to do an opportunity, a presentation,
Yep.
and then reaching out to Mike,
Right, see what
right?
his
Say,
availability
hey, Mike,
is.
what's your thought? We have a presentation we'd like to do. Can we coordinate a?
Why don't we try to do something for our next meeting,
Oh, we could do that.
right? That's 2 weeks off.
2 weeks off, yeah.
I mean, just throw that out there as an opportunity
There you go.
and see how that works.
Yeah. I like that idea.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure the candidates are watching.
I hope so. The candidates are watching, congratulations.
All right.
They're not watching this, they're working diligently at their summer job.
That's right.
Alan. That's
Trying
what
to
they're
get
doing.
those last hours in.
Trying to get those last hours in.
It is a monumental task.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you put 2 through, I put 3 through.
Yeah, Huh?
It's,
never thought I'd make it. Somehow. You know.
well, I'll let you know in about 8 years. But it was well worth the investment, and they did the work, so
Yeah.
that's key. And these 2 candidates obviously prepared to do the work, so I'm sure they'll be successful.
Yeah.
All right. Number 6.
Hold off until the next board meeting, when there's a full board to restructure.
Fine with me.
Yeah, agreed, yeah.
Do you want to bring up an old topic of old business?
Sure.
Back on the dumpster regulations. I did call a few companies. The problem with the companies that we have permitted in town of Mendon, few of them have residential dumpsters because the rest of them are only commercial and demolition
Not to
dumpsters.
interrupt, we do have a hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. SP?
Hi, I'm sorry. You're done. Until you were done talking.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I'm Siobhan Pisano. I'm the one who my husband's the one with the construction business who the complaint was actually brought against. So the dumpster.
Yes, okay.
Yes. So I just kind of wanted a chance to kind of clear up some of the things that my neighbor had accused us of. If that's okay, because I feel like she's been able to speak at these meetings without us knowing that they were going on, and that our name has really been slandered in all of this.
Of course, please go ahead.
Thank you. So, yeah, we really just want peace, but it seems like one concern after another. We're being dragged in front of different boards of Mendon. This is not the first one, and our name was exonerated in the last one. But it's just one complaint after another from that specific neighbor. But this time, she's accused us of, because I listened to the other town meetings, and she's accused us of creating an unclean, toxic environment on our street. And that I do take personally. My husband and I are extremely clean people. She does not have her facts straight. She's said that we had our dumpster sit on our property for 6 months, which was completely false. And I have the invoices from BP to prove that if you did need them. She's also accused us of being the cause of her rat problem. Meanwhile, I've never, ever seen a rat on our property, inside or out. Ever in my life, dead or alive. And if she has rats, it's probably because she's dumping food across the street on the town property. I know it's attracted my dog over there who's trying to eat the stuff that she throws out. So I would assume it would probably also attract rats. When I talked to her about that, she did say she stopped, but my husband saw her doing it again recently. So again, that I would assume that's the cause of her rats, not us. She also made it seem like we have stuff flying out of the dumpster, like constantly, which is also untrue. Any household trash that was not construction debris that was put in there has been bagged. So it's not possible for trash to be flying out. It doesn't attract animals, it doesn't attract rats. You know, like some of you have come out to see the property, and we do right now have some construction going on. We just we did some renovations like 6 months ago or so, and then right now we're redoing our deck, which is coming along, and then after that we're going to be doing new windows and new siding. So we are going to need it for a bit longer, at least for those things. But I mean, I would invite any one of you on the Board of Health to come by, and some of you have, unbeknownst to us, and see that there's no toxic or unclean environment. And I know she doesn't like the noise of it being switched out, and BP has been instructed not to switch it out next to her property. So that won't be happening anymore. They did last time, or the time before, I think, because that was a mistake on their end, but they've been specifically instructed, Rick talked to them, and they're not going to be doing that again. So it's out of the view of her. It's out of the public view. You'd have to actually be looking for it to see it. Nothing is flying out, and it won't be switched out next to her house anymore. So I just wanted to kind of clear some of that stuff up because I don't like being presented as unclean people.
Thank you very much. Siobhan, it's Alan.
Hi.
I've been to your property. You've been very cooperative and you've been very willing to listen to what I've had to say. So I appreciate that. When I was at your property last, I witnessed no trash flying out of the dumpster, no flies, no rodents. We had a very nice conversation. You've been very fair when I've talked with you, and I've tried to be very fair with you also. You did agree, Rick did agree to getting a covered dumpster for the household trash, which I reported to the Board of Health office, and I greatly appreciate. And I can see that the renovations at your home are moving along. So I understand that the larger open dumpster won't be there forever. So, thank you very much. And I appreciate the fact that, you waited through the whole meeting to make your presentation. It's the board's view that we want to be fair and equitable to everyone. So you are always welcome to attend a meeting, whether you just want to listen or whether you want to speak. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan.
You're
Yeah, I think from my perspective, Siobhan, the issue that I was probably most concerned with was the use of the dumpster from a standpoint of household trash and waste. Being in an open container, even though it's enclosed in bags, may not be loose, it does potentially expose it, to the elements and to the attraction, of animals. Not necessarily just rats. That's one, but so that was, from my perspective, was a big concern. From my view, household trash and waste of that nature really should be placed into an enclosed container. And I know that Alan had conversations with Rick about that. I don't know if you're able to confirm. Have you folks actually acquired an actual closed cover, small, like 2-yard type of a container to put that type of trash in, or how is that being disposed of now? I think you're on mute.
You're on
Siobhan.
mute, I'm sorry.
Am I muted now?
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, and I can understand that, although it hasn't actually happened that it's attracted any animals or anything like that. I understand the concern of that, and we just want peace. So if it's going to be peaceful to just do a closed container, then like we said, we will do that. And Rick is looking into that. We don't have it as of yet, but Rick is looking into it right now.
Can I ask you a question? Because I think we actually did a little I think research on our end in terms of what it might cost to actually have something like that versus simply signing on board with the town's trash program and disposing of the trash, on a weekly basis. Had that been considered an option for you folks?
I mean, honestly, yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm open to either way. Years ago, Rick, being in the construction business, used to bring his construction debris directly to a landfill with a waste station, and everything was disposed of there. And so at that time, he used to bring his own household trash too, because it was just like, all right, well, there we go. Dispose of everything at once. And then I forget why, but for some reason that stopped. I don't know if they closed that way station or something, but for some reason it stopped. And then he had the dumps, but that's why we hadn't had town pickup, because it wasn't easy. And then Rick got the dumpster here for construction debris, so we just figured out, put our stuff in there too, so. But I am open to either one, looking at either one, either the town or the 2-yarder. Yeah, kind of just, whatever Rick prefers.
Yeah, to be honest with you, from a pricing perspective, it would be far less expensive to participate in the town trash program as opposed to, that's my understanding from the research that's been done, as opposed to the expense, unless Rick has a particular connection of getting paying for a 2-yarder, to maintain that. I mean, I will say you're probably aware, as Alan's had the conversation with Rick, we are looking at, dumpster regulations. And one of the components that will be incorporated into that is the non-use of an open dumpster for household waste trash. So again, we haven't actually implemented those regulations. But as Alan has indicated to Rick, we're close. And so just to be aware, I think from a health perspective, it's probably not a good idea to be mixing your construction debris and demolition debris with household waste, to be honest with you. I think that the healthier way to go is to always keep that separate and dispose of it, separately. I understand it sounds like, there was an avenue previously that allowed you to do both, but when you keep household waste and trash like that on a premises in an open container for a period of time and it's not disposed of, it does have some health concerns there.
Right, and it was not, yeah, and I agree with that. But it was not at all like Tisha said, that would be crazy. But yeah, again, we've never had any health concerns. It's never like ever posed a problem like that, but because it is, causing an issue with complaint, then we will comply. But like I said, it's never caused any issue. You guys are always welcome to come and see. It's not an unclean environment. You can come over unannounced, I don't care, and look around. You can look inside, you can look outside, I don't care. I just, again, we will comply, but I just don't like being presented as unclean. That really disturbs me.
Oh, understood. I never, to be honest with you personally, I never took the complaints as being representative of you folks being unclean. So I know personally that you would not be in favor of that type of a view. It was never the view that I don't think either of us ever took of you folks as residents. It's simply just trying to come to a resolution that might be the best from a health and environmental perspective on how best to handle household waste. The use of the dumpster as you're using it for construction and demolition is a perfectly legal and valid allowance. Again, with the dumpster regulation that we're looking to impose, there could be guidelines that will go with that as well, that could have implications for how you and or possibly others are using those dumpsters now. But again, we still have some things we want to kind of look at closely and make sure we're evaluating and doing it reasonably and sensibly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we will comply. We're not, like unlawful people, so we will comply.
No need to send the militia after you, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we appreciate your time and we appreciate you coming on and speaking with us. And like Alan says, anytime you have a need to reach out, we're open to listening to all, all sides.
Thank you so much for letting me speak. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else have we have another guest. who wishes to
Tisha?
Speak?
Hi, I just wanted to add that I also do very much want peace. And I also, the only reason, I certainly never meant any of this to be personal. I certainly more displeased with the situation than naming, people, not behavior, not people. Do you know what I mean? And I don't see rats running around either. I catch them and I see them when I catch them, and I see them with nocturnal cameras. So I understand that she's never seen one. But the reason I see them is because I'm catching them and because I have nocturnal cameras that I see them. And I know the source. And I'm very excited to hear that there'll be information, education put in place to help resolve this.
Excellent.
Thank you very much, and we will be reaching out to you when we get back to our well regulations. So we will be tapping you as a resource as far as duplexes and multifamily homes.
Great, because I did speak with my broker about that, and she had a very simple, direct resolve for that. As a duplex owner herself, she knows exactly what to suggest. So yeah, absolutely reach out.
Yeah, it'll be a couple meetings from now, but we will be getting back to those. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Tisha.
You're welcome.
So we're good.
Anybody else that is online have any questions or comments? I will take that as a no.
Don't see any hands raised.
All right.
We cover everything?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
What do we need? Can you summarize for me what we need to work on between now and our next meeting?
Between now and our next meeting, I'll be working on Rock the Block permit applications and fees. I'll be reaching out to E.L. Harvey and the scholarship recipients about scheduling a date and time to get them on board. More on the rooster noise nuisance for the cease and desist.
Yeah, I'll look to reach out to Mike Hugo.
Yeah, that sounds like a great resource.
Yeah.
And again, still working on the Lake Nipmunk, trying to get more, a couple
Yeah,
people.
that's a phenomenal job putting that all together. And I mean, that.
Well, again, thank you to Missy.
Yeah, and I'm sure she'd like to see that because
Yeah.
all those years working on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
to see it in that type of a form. In fact, I'm gonna take one and get one to her because she's gonna love to see it. It's getting there.
We're getting there slowly but surely.
The other thing is, all right, so you're gonna look back and try to confirm how we handled the 350th.
Yes,
Block party, great.
roughly August 2017.
Yeah. Still working on a panel
Yep.
for Lake Nipmunk.
Mhm.
Oh, as an FYI, speaking with Jack about this, we're going to do a reach out to, maybe we already did. They,
Rhode Island Analytical.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I contacted the Board of Health in Franklin and Bellingham, because I live in Bellingham now, I used to live in Franklin. They have their own beaches. So I'm like, well, let me reach out to them and see what they do.
There you go.
And Franklin called me back, and they use Rhode Island Analytical. And then they were out of
They have an office out of Hudson, Mass.
Hudson, Mass.
But Warwick, Rhode Island,
Okay,
being RI, they assume that's their headquarters,
yeah,
but they have a presence in Massachusetts as well. So we thought I'd reach out to them we wanted to get an idea, looking at them potentially as a resource and possibly somebody to potentially use.
oh, absolutely.
Trying to get an understanding of what their testing costs might be and maybe in the process of having the conversation with someone there, talk about from their perspective, what is felt to be the components that provide, validity to a test, when you're testing the water, to give comfort, to the folks that are using the lake and the beach, to say we're covering bases by not just E. coli, but like Dan had mentioned, he talked about the nitrates.
Well, I know, being in the landscape business, if you hire a licensed fertilizer / pesticide person to come and apply, if I remember correctly, I think you're supposed to be like 12 feet off the water's edge when you're applying
Okay.
that type of stuff, because
Yeah.
those synthetic fertilizers can create havoc.
Yeah,
And, yeah,
So if you're hiring someone that is licensed, they have rules as part of their licensure that they have to follow.
okay.
Now, if a homeowner is doing it themselves, they might not be aware.
Yeah.
And again, that was a long time ago that I read that requirement, so it may have changed. But at one point, I remember reading that, and I'm going back to maybe 2000, when I took a course from UMass Extension, 12 feet off the water's edge. So, if you have someone who is applying it within that zone,
Mhm.
who knows what ends up in the lake?
But we do know the fertilizers are a source.
Or if you have someone mowing the lawn, putting their grass clippings in a wet area near the lake, not a great place to be putting them.
yeah.
They think they're kind of filling in a little wet spot and they're loading up the lake. So, when you mention the education component
Yep.
of, putting this panel together in this forum and then sharing that information with the public, just the way, Ann Mazar makes up those flyers for mosquitoes and Triple E, maybe the Lake Nipmuc Association would, to their group, at least, make sure that everyone on the lake is aware of, what could be detrimental to the lake if they're not aware already.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if they're on the lake side or they're on the other side of the street, because some of those wet areas on the other side of the street drain into the lake.
Mhm.
So, nothing but good can come out of putting that panel and that joint meeting together.
Yep.
All right. That's about it, other than setting the next meeting.
So the next meeting.
I don't have my calendar with me, so 2 weeks would be,
We got August 3rd, and so the 10th, August 10th.
all right, Tom, August 10,
Sure, why not?
all right? And we're gonna reach out to Joyce.
Joyce, yep.
Yeah.
All right, 8, 10, 22, and we'll have it here.
If you like, do it while we have Joyce coming back. I'd kind of like to do the in-person.
Now,
These
did
four.
did Governor Baker extend the remote?
It was extended. Matter
Okay.
of fact, we were conversing with Ellen on that today.
March 30th.
Yeah,
2023?
2023, right? Yeah.
Um,
So the only language we think that would have to change if we were ever to go back to remote or use remote as we move along is just, I think we make reference to a date that's gone by. So we would simply change that date in the spiel
Yeah, the July 15th date to now March.
to now March, but
Gotcha.
everything else, all of the verbiage applies.
Yeah.
Well, I would say if Joyce is going to attend the meeting, which I hope she'll be able to,
Yep.
that we do it in person.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how well you know Joyce. You've probably never met her.
No matter.
So, it's important that we,
Yeah, no, it makes sense to face, at least
Yeah.
the first few meetings, The only contention or conflict potentially that she had mentioned was she has an activity she participates in on Wednesdays during the summer, which typically doesn't end in a lot of cases until close to 7. So I had thrown out the idea based on discussion with you and Jack as well. Would there be another night that you might want to switch to, and we'd only be talking about for the weeks left in the summertime?
Yeah, which would probably only be 2 or 3 meetings.
Right, and or change the start time instead of 7, like a 7:15 or 7:30 start.
I think I would rather change the start time than change the day.
I mean, potentially that could even help you as well, right?
Nothing can help me. I mean, I'm all for a start time of 7:15 or 7:30. That's not an issue.
Okay, how does that work?
Because we're gonna get better at this so that it's not 9:30.
Right, well, you know, we've had so many issues that we've had to try to work through, and they all equally have importance,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
right? So we're trying not to let,
People need some relief.
yeah.
from the various things that are happening. So we're just trying to move it along, and, you know, one of the things that, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier, that folks may not understand with regard to boards that meet, based on how open meeting law works in the state of Massachusetts. Boards are not allowed to deliberate, or I should say quorums, at minimum, are not allowed to deliberate outside of meetings. With the idea being is that when you have an issue that affects the public, it's supposed to be discussed in public meetings like this. So for me and Alan to be deliberating on a topic amongst ourselves, we might be trying to advance the movement of the solution by talking it through to get to the next step. But the state of Massachusetts views that under open meeting as deliberating. And you're not allowed to deliberate issues because the idea is you want to be transparent to the public so that the public is hearing everything that we're talking about. And that can create a slowdown of advancing progress,
It's definitely slow down.
you know? So it's
Yeah,
like,
but it's just like we talk about rules and guidelines and regulations, it's something that we have to operate within.
Yeah,
yeah, within these meetings. So unfortunately, we can't leave this meeting and then during the week of between now and the next meeting, talk further
talk about what we
about
just talked about.
moving along, because that's deliberating and that's part of the process that the public is supposed to hear. I just think, unfortunately, I understand what they're trying to do
Right.
in making an open meeting, and you know, we're not trying to hide anything from the public when we discuss things. We're just trying to move things along. It's just very difficult to do that, meeting every 2 weeks. So what ends up happening really is it avoids us from deliberating. And actually being a 3-person board wouldn't change that because any 2 of us I shouldn't say quorum, yeah, it would be a quorum. We couldn't do it, so you become the conduit. So we can talk to you and you can talk to Alan. So I could say, hey, get a hold of Alan, you know, and do it that way. It just is, it's a little roundabout, but it's all under the idea of trying to be transparent to the public.
Absolutely, and it just going along with the 48-hour notice of posting a meeting.
Yeah,
Right.
You know, they want to make sure that everybody has fair notice of what is going to be discussed and when,
Right.
so that they have the opportunity to participate.
And I understand the public should want to hear everything we're saying. It does make it tough when you're trying to move things along from
Right.
behind the
Go back to the
scenes.
office and take any action.
Yeah, I mean, you could take action. It's just that we're not supposed to be talking it through with one another. We have to do it through a third party, so to
Right.
speak, to get it done, so. But
All right.
we're going to get it done,
We are.
so.
Okay, so we won't set a time until you have an opportunity to reach out to Joyce and find out what time would be good for her.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll leave that
Set
in
the
your
date.
hands.
we're going to leave it in my hands.
Yeah, since you already talked with her and stuff.
Okay, all right.
But we did set the date,
Yes,
and we did set the.
August 10th,
The fact that it's going to be in person.
in person.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
All in
Thank you
favor?
very much.
Aye, thank you all very much, and thank you everyone out there for participating in tonight's meeting. Hope to continue to advance and move forward with these issues and get to resolution. That's the goal.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Hey, we're getting better.